All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Black History Month. And our second speaker this morning is Coach Jamar McKoy, and he's an educator here at James Island Charter High School, joining us this year as James Island's first African-American head football coach. And so that's definitely a milestone. Definitely something to be proud of. And he's not just a coach, of course, he's a leader and an educator. And so I'm going to give him time to kind of talk about that. And Coach, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for having me, Ms. Johnson. I really appreciate you thinking of me to allow me to be a speaker this morning. I have to say, when I was approached, I was kind of caught off guard, but
that's how I do.
But I am so very proud and honored to be a speaker, followed behind Mr. Maxwell, who did a wonderful job in the hour prior. I hope I can rise to his level. But as you know, I'm Coach McKoy. I'm here by the way of Gastonia, North Carolina, which is about 3.5 hours up the road, depending on how fast you're driving. If you ride with Mr. Timoni, it's probably about 2 hours and 45 minutes. I teach history. In college, I was a double major, and we'll get into a little bit of that later on, but in college, I was a double major, political science, history, and wind up dropping history and getting my degree in political science and a master's degree in public administration. In college, I played football as well as I ran track. And I played football at about 60 pounds ago. So I'm past playing weight, and I did a decathlon in track, which is 10 different events over a 2-day span. I started teaching. I graduated college in 2006, entered into corporate America. I was an executive with Target. And when the economy hit the downturn, I was the youngest person on the payroll, and I was, one of the last ones to be hired. So in corporate America, they got this saying, last one hired, first one fired. So I was let go. I had a nice severance package that my wife and I lived off of for about 2 years, and wound up getting into coaching and teaching. So I knew there was something that I could do and do well, because I started playing sports when I was 5 years old, started running track at 6. So I had been around sports for a long time, and it was just an easy transition from being an executive over the logistics process for Target in Charlotte, North Carolina, to coaching young men and women. And as a child, my grandpa, I grew up in the house with my grandmother, single parent home. It's my mom and my brothers and sisters. And I felt like coming into the coaching world that coaching younger people, that I kind of related to them well, because a lot of times you find kids that play sports, they come from single parent homes, disadvantaged. I've had I wouldn't say pleasure, but I've grew up in Section 8 housing and just wanted to better myself. So seeing that environment, knowing that I wanted to do better and help my family come out of the situation that it was in, was kind of one of the driving, motivating factors for me to do better with my life. So here I sit, 2 degrees, a coach that have coached some great athletes over 7 years as a head coach. I've put over 70 kids in college, about a half dozen Division I athletes, some starting at some of the most prominent football programs in America. and I love what I do. And I was very honored to be able to take this job here and try to rebuild, rebrand this program. We did a wonderful job last year. I was so proud of the kids, the way they performed, the way they was able to fight through adversity and and do what they did, finish 4-4, go to the playoffs, do different things. And currently they're working hard to have an even better season this fall. I'm super, super proud of them. Uh, so that's kind of my background. And there's a wonderful slide presentation that's been put together, and we could go down it. How do we want to roll, Ms. Johnson, like that?
Yeah, if you want me to make you the host and then you can share it, or how you want to do?
You can share it. That'll
Okay.
be cool, and we'll just roll like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna move one screen over, and then I'll make sure I share it so everybody can see it. And are y'all able to kind of see it? Everybody got it? I know my class can see it.
Hey, that's me. That's me right there, guys. That's me.
All right.
So when I'm not in athletic gear or whatever, that's what Coach McKoy looks like in a bow tie and a button-up shirt. Something that's a lot of people don't know about Coach McKoy. So between becoming a teacher and a coach and being separated from corporate America, I actually took the opportunity to run for the state house for the General Assembly in the state of North Carolina. I have a political science degree, and a lot of times people interview me, whether it's the news, the print media, or the TV, and they try to trap me with questions. They always ask, "Do you put your political opinion on the kids?" And the answer to that is always, always no. I never tell kids how to vote, how they should think. Have I ever had open dialogue about what's going on politically in America? Absolutely. I mean, we're all humans, but I try my best, and I think I'm pretty good at it, not to try to sway students under my watch one way or another. There are only 3 students in all of America that I can persuade, and those are the 3 that are under my roof: Carmen, Winston, and Peyton. But other students, I talk to them openly, and allow them to formulate their own opinions. And I feel have the background to do so because I do have a degree in political science. But my race for the 110th district in the state of North Carolina, we raised a lot of money. We fought hard. Although I came up short, it was an excellent learning experience. And upon losing that race, I was nominated, voted on, and elected as the first African-American chair of the Gaston County Democratic Caucus. And I sat in that position for 2 years. And during that time, I became a teacher and a coach, and, been at it ever since. And, it's been a fun journey. And I love doing what I do. But right here, you see the best university in America, the North Carolina Central University. This is such a beautiful place. The rolling hills and verdant green, as we say, home to the eagle, and it's no common, ordinary barnyard fowl. Eagle is the best, So I graduated from North Carolina Central University December the 6th, and I spent 3 years there, and it was the best time of my life. North Carolina Central is a HBCU, a historically Black college or university, and I played football there, and I had a wonderful time, met lifelong friends, met a wife who some of you guys will be in her class at some point or another. She teaches culinary, so she's in the CTE wing.
Some of my students say they have her.
Yeah, so some of you guys that haven't had her, you know, when you're walking down the halls and you smell bacon and eggs cooking, they're down in that classroom cooking it up, or you know, they cooking something new every week. You know, I know because she bring it in the office. Try this. I'm like, hold on. And so it's always something. It's always something. But I've had the distinct pleasure to
Oh, I'm messing up. Oh my goodness. I got
go
stuff
ahead.
all over the place. Sorry.
Yeah, so at North Carolina Central, you know, again, so the question right here says, why did I select my profession? So I did not select the profession of becoming a teacher. Growing up, I wanted to go into politics. I've known that I wanted to be in politics for a long time, since junior high school. So I'm old enough to have gone to junior high school. A lot of you guys went to middle school. So in North Carolina, we had elementary, junior high, high school. So I went to junior high school, and I knew in junior high school that I wanted to be in politics. And that passion was birthed out of when I was younger in elementary school. I remember sitting watching TV and watching the Persian Gulf War, and I remember that it was always nighttime, and you could see the guns and the bullets, the laser, the trace bullets going. I was like, man, what is that? And my grandfather, who was in the Korean War, he was a navalman, and he fought aboard the USS Saratoga. You know, he would sit there and he would explain to me, and you know, just do different things, and just I mean it grew this hunger in me to want to go into politics. And you know, since that point, I knew, I was like, man, I'm going into politics. I'm gonna be the president of the United States. And I kind of follow that path and that passion. And you know, I delved a little in politics before totally getting into teaching and coaching. We can go to the next slide.
Mhm.
So
You want
who
me to
knows
skip
that
that
guy
one?
right there? Does anyone know who that is? Anybody, any of the classes, anybody know who that is?
They're looking now. They're like, no.
I'm a San Fran fan. I got an answer, but I'm gonna yield to the students.
Nobody in here? Nobody? Oh. They're at a loss, coach.
Oh man. Help them out, Mr. Timoni.
That's Jim Harbaugh.
That's Coach Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh, he has a brother as well who is the head coach of the Ravens. But Coach Harbaugh is the head coach at Michigan. He was a head coach for the 49ers, and they let him go, and he got this job over here with Michigan. But this is Coach Harbaugh. He came to one of my previous practices at my last place of employment. We had a kid that was one of the top student athletes in the nation. Now, I do not say that lightly. Student athlete, meaning that he was a student first, an athlete second. And that's one of the things that, you know, we try to push hard. You know, you have to be a student first, because athletics stop for everybody one day. It stopped for me. It stopped for many of the adults that are around you. They play one sport or another, or they enjoy one sport or another, whether it's basketball, skating, ice hockey, ping pong, something. It's all going to stop one day. But your mind will always be there, and it will continue to rotate, and you have to continue to move forward. As a young man, my grandma, and she still does, I was just with her this weekend, she always reminds me of the story in the Bible of Joshua and Moses, when when Moses parted the Red Sea, and this is my grandma talking, when Moses parted the Red Sea, Joshua evidently had to be there to see all these great things that Moses was doing. And Joshua had to internalize that, like, man, I want to be like Moses. I want to do the great things that Moses is doing. So once Moses died, the Bible tells us that Joshua was there, but God spoke to Joshua and said, listen, my servant Moses is dead, but you need to gather these people and take them across the river to the promised land. So you can no longer look at your past. You have to look at the promise. So as a people, we have to continue. We need to know our past, but we need to look toward the promise. And a lot of times I think as student athletes, we look at the worst possible outcome when we need to be looking at the best. So had a young man, again, get back to the story, make a long story short, had a young man, Coach Harbaugh, come to visit with. His name's Marcus Mooney. Marcus Mooney had a 4.9 GPA, one of the best division ends in the country. He could have went literally anywhere besides Alabama, the only school that didn't offer him. And he wound up taking a full ride to Yale University, and he's there now doing great things. And Marcus is just a wonder. I mean, to turn down Ohio State, Michigan, Chapel Hill, all these places, Tennessee, to go to Yale says a lot about Marcus. And Marcus would always say something funny when these coaches would come in. And I thought it was just absolutely hilarious because, you know, you would get kids to say different things to different coaches, and the coaches would come in and say, Marcus, what do you want to major in? And Marcus would say, zoology. I said, zoology, Marcus? Like, and it was funny because you needed to know the backstory. Marcus, from the time of birth until now, because I just talked to him yesterday, has never had a pet. I mean, a pet dog, a pet rabbit, nothing. But he wanted to major in zoology. So I always thought it was funny. I'm like, man, like, how does those things add up? But you know, as a coach, you know, I've met a lot of different coaches and have expanded my network so that we could do great things here at James Island. We will do great things. So we'll no longer look at the past and what was at James Island. We're going to look toward the future and the promise. Oh man. So
Look, can I play the song real quick, just so everybody get in the groove of if they missed it when we first got started.
Go ahead, I'm with it.
Look, Mr. Timoni, you like, no.
Yes, play it.
Let me see if I can pull it real quick. My kids were in here jamming to it.
Y'all got to jam to it. Y'all got to jam to it.
Y'all know this song?
Yeah, this is a song.
Oh, they kind of, I wish you could see them. They're like,
ain't nothing wrong with it. Y'all, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. You gotta love a little George Clinton.
oh. So that was a little bit of George Clinton's Atomic Dog.
Right. Peace and blessings to the good bros. George Clinton just crossed last year during the pandemic. George Clinton just crossed last year. Some of the adults on here, I was on stage with George Clinton about 3 years ago. If y'all catch up with me, I'll show y'all the videos. We can't put that on Zoom, but it was good times with George Clinton. But guys, what you see here, y'all see Coach McKoy in his heyday at North Carolina Central as a young neophyte of the illustrious Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I was online underground for 13 weeks, 5 days, 4 hours, 3 minutes, 20 seconds, and it was hard but fair, and I learned a lot, went through a lot, and I was able to cross the burning sands March the 6th of 2004. And I've been a financial member ever since. And what you see right there in the middle is my chapter shield, Tau Psi. We was birthed into the fraternity in 1931, November 17th, 1931. Now, something really, really special about me and Omega Psi Phi. I was elected to national office in 2006. And I was over the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th districts. So I was literally right after, so I was elected at the conclave in Little Rock, Arkansas, in July of 06 and graduated December of 06. And literally for 2 years, I was traveling all over the country, doing different initiatives for Omega Psi Phi. Upon leaving that elected position, I was hired as the undergraduate development officer, or the UDO. And with my job with Target had this thing called work-life balance. And as an ETL logistics, I would make sure that different stores got different things they needed from the different warehouses and so forth and so on. So I would work 4 days a week with Target, and you would do 4 days on, 3 days off. So those 3 days off, I would handle UDO functions for the fraternity. So literally once a week, I was flying into Decatur, Georgia, where our international headquarters is, to my office on Snapfinger Parkway, and handling business for Omega Psi Phi. I was in charge of a budget. Me and Brian Gundy, it was two of us. We was in charge of a budget of about $3 million, and we had to do different initiatives like the undergraduate summit, the leadership conference during the summertime, and the conclave every other summer that we did not have the leadership conference. But you see here good times in college. The bottom left picture is us on our probate day. Does anyone know what probate is? Any students out there? Do you know what I mean when I say probate?
Anybody in here? In my class, they're saying no. They're like, no. But they like the pictures.
Do y'all want to know what probate is? Do y'all want to know what probate is?
Yeah, they say yeah.
All right, so literally, what the faces that you see there in the bottom left-hand corner, you see that's Juan, Andre George, that's Red, who is the honcho of the line. And Red, a cool thing about Red's older brother, you might know, he goes by the name of Trey Songz. You have, so right behind Red, I had another line brother. His name is Shay Ingram. He passed on 2 years ago from kidney failure, but he's not pictured because he was pulled out of the line and on the dog chain. And you see Keith Hargrove at the 5, me at the 6. So anytime y'all ask me my favorite number, it's the 6, the rubber band man. And you got Laz, and at the tail end of the line, you have Richard Gordon. But nonetheless, probate is a time that you are presented to your, what we call yard. And the yard is every student on campus. And so right here, as you see this picture, I had been up for about 36 hours. And it was raining outside, and we had been standing there for about 8 hours, just standing. And so the night before we death marched, and that's one of the things that has been outlawed. But you death march and going into the bowl, you sing a song, and after you finish singing that song, everybody start gathering around, and then you start your probate show. And that's kind of probating in a nutshell.
Yeah, we used to call it we called it a coming out show. I don't think that was the right word. Probate was, eventually we did graduate to calling it the right thing, which was probate show. We called it coming out when you, like you said, you basically show who you are. A lot of times it's a mystery. So I know for us, we wore like a mask, so no one knew. It was always a secret. And then you take your mask off and everybody cheers because they didn't know you were online. And, that's the fun part of it. And then the service part is what comes. And some of y'all might have heard of Omega Psi Phi, Delta Sigma Theta. Okay, so some of my students are like, yeah, they're familiar with that.
Right.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Definitely. The service part of it. We're a community service based organization. Like we do a lot of community service, a lot of work in and around our community. Trash pickups, just different things. When I was on the yard, we would do more things geared toward campus, like voter registration drives, different things of that nature. And I'd be remiss to be totally honest. I mean, we would throw parties too. That's part of growing in your social life in college. It can't be the only thing, or you will be stuck in college forever. But some of these pictures, like the picture in the middle, with us throwing up the hooks, we was at a service project. Then was at what we call Read to Achieve. We would go to the elementary every Tuesday at 1:00 because we would have at North Carolina Central what's called 1040 break. And at 1040 every Tuesday from 1040 to 2:00, there's no classes. So during 1040 break, we would gather all the bros, we would go to the plot, we would sing ritualistic songs and hop and march. And then at 1:00, we'll all muster up and go to the local elementary and do Read to Achieve for an hour. And that's just a service event that's real easy. And as a matter of fact, I stole that program from what we used to do at Central and did it with my last football program. And we're going to do it here too once the pandemic leaves. One thing students need to know is that if you could read to a younger child, it helps them improve their reading skills. If you could hear someone reading fluently, it helps them sharpen their reading skills. So what better way than to thrust young men and women that play on a football team into community service than reading to a younger child, because they already think that you're superstars just because you're on the football team anyway. Top right hand corner is us at homecoming as older gentlemen. Bottom right hand corner is 2005, us winning the homecoming step show. That's me in the bottom right hand corner. Oh, all right. So one thing that I could share with you guys about my profession as a teacher is, and this is on an ensuing slide as well, that male African American teachers are few and far between. This is one of the professions that sometimes Black males kind of shun and want to go a different route. Statistics show us that Black males in classrooms help keep or help grow the other African American students within the classroom. Growing up, I had one African American principal, Mr. Jaggers, and he was at my elementary school, and I had one African American male teacher who was also my junior high coach, Coach Floyd, who was the Bros as well. But I didn't see another African American teacher until I got to North Carolina Central in 03. But as again, as a political scientist going around looking at different things, I've had the just awesome opportunity to meet some people that kind of influenced my life. You see President Obama there. I was happy to get an opportunity to meet President Obama. And believe it or not, I was able to meet President Obama through Omega Psi Phi. One of his body men was the Bruz, and he knew about me from serving on the national level and invited me to come meet President Obama. Right in the middle there, you see a picture of me and Dr. Barber. Dr. Barber sits on the national board of the NAACP. He is the creator of the Moral Monday movement. Has anyone heard of the Moral Monday movement?
Anybody? Have y'all
Moral
seen
Monday.
this gentleman before? Dr. Barber, anybody seen him before? No? Okay.
All right, so Dr. Barber started this thing called the Moral Monday movement. And every Monday for about a year, he organized protests in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and a couple Midwestern states. And these people would go to the Capitol building and protest and civil disobedience by standing in the Capitol dome, and business would start. And it was peaceful, and these people would be arrested. And but Dr. Barber shot to fame. You can look him up. He's all over the internet. Pretty sharp fella. And to the far right there is me and Mickey Michaud. He's the one of the first African American men elected to the General Assembly in North Carolina and the longest serving. And he is Tau Psi 41. He crossed North Carolina Central in 1941. Good brother. He just retired from the General Assembly and didn't run this past election cycle. But these are some of the people that have influenced me in a positive way, which in turn help fire me up to influence the students under my command, under my eye, the same way that they've influenced me. Any questions? All right, so we kind of touched on this earlier about why I did what I did, and going to school and things of that sort. One thing that I hadn't touched on, I wanted to go to law school, and I got out, graduated from college, and started making money, and I was making good money. I was like, man, I'm not going back to school. I've done what I needed to do, and but the law school factor always sticks with me. And several years ago, it hit me real tough again. I was like, man, I can go back to law school, and this gentleman in this picture right here, he's a good friend of the family, and let me tell y'all an interesting fact about my wife. I'm a sidebar, then I'm gonna come back to this gentleman right here. Miss McKoy won't tell you, but I'm gonna tell you. So Miss McKoy's grandfather, her mom's dad, was the first African American realtor in Charleston.
Wow.
Wow. When the movie The Green Book, has anyone seen the movie The Green Book?
Yeah.
So when the movie The Green Book was, they were in initial production, they interviewed her family here in Charleston because her grandfather, Mr. Albert Brooks, owned the hotels that Cassius Clay stayed in, and not Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay stayed in, that Malcolm X stayed in, that Martin Luther King, all the great civil rights leaders that would come to Charleston during that time period stayed in Mr. Brooks hotels, ate at his restaurants, or stayed in the original Airbnbs, because he owned about 60 homes up and down Rutledge. So he would either put them in one of the houses or put them up in his hotels. With that great family history, you know, I was able to meet some of our family members, and they introduced me to this gentleman here. I know the picture's kind of blurry, but that is brother Ben Chavis. And Ben Chavis is a giant in the African American community. Ben Chavis, when I was talking to him, he was like, "Man, you ought to go back to law school." That's why I'm telling this story. And you know, I really played with it for a while, and I just kind of started having kids. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. But does anyone know who Ben Chavis is? Any of the students?
No, they're shaking their head, but Chavis is an island name. Chavis Road is about 2 minutes away from us on Solid Creek. So Chavis is definitely a Charleston name.
Yeah, Ben Chavis is definitely a giant in the African American community. There's a book, and the book has also been turned into a movie. And I know Ms. Johnson teaches African American Studies class. Blood Done Sign My Name. Have you guys heard about that book and that movie?
No, they're saying no.
Oh man. So you guys gotta watch that that movie during African American History Month, Blood Done Signed My Name. It's about a young man who goes off to war. It's a true story. Happened in Oxford, North Carolina. He goes off to war, Vietnam vet, comes back, goes to a store. The two owners of the store get mad at this African American Vietnam vet, walk outside and kill him dead. It's almost akin to the Emmett Till story. The jury finds these two white men innocent, let them go, and Ben Chavis, who I'm in a picture with, organizes the people of Oxford, and you know they literally burn the town down. And this is how Ben Chavis shot to fame. He's also a part, and I won't go into that. I'm a history guy. The Wilmington 10. You guys look that story up. It's excellent story. Something that deals with your history, your ancestry. But the Wilmington 10 is another situation that he was involved in, which he went to prison for, but was let out and made about $5 million for a wrongful conviction suit. But again, these are people who have positively influenced me, that I've had just the absolute honor to meet, and I'm just so humbled by it, and just they've helped shape my path. And I hope what they taught me that it comes back out, and I teach and mold the future as I do my work here on James Island.
Yeah, and if I could add that green book, a lot of the students don't know about that, because you know they think you can just stay in a hotel, just call up and make a reservation. I think that's fascinating that Ms. McKoy is connected to that. One of the things that I talked about with my African American Studies class last semester, I said, you know, it would be fascinating, because I do teach about the green book and we do read it, and we look at all the different places in South Carolina. I said it would be fascinating if we could do a project to map out where those places were and if they're still there. I'm sure a lot of them, because Charleston is growing, and it's been growing. I'm sure a lot of those places are not there, but I think it would be great to do like a landmark, like the Historical Society maybe get involved and put some landmark, what do you call it, the signs, almost like how, you know how they have the Civil Rights Trail. You talked about that earlier, where you can do like the tour of the different places. I think that would be something, if we could do that in Charleston, that would be fascinating. So I'm definitely going to talk to Ms. McKoy about that. I mean, I'm glad you shared that, because that is something that I definitely want to include in my curriculum, maybe having the kids map out those places and see, can we put those hotels and other places, but definitely the ones that you mentioned, Coach McKoy, put some of those things on the national registry, even if the physical building isn't there anymore?
Well, some of the physical buildings are still in and around Charleston. They're just different things. Ms. Johnson, I just sent you an email of an article, and you can pull it up, and I'll just read it really fast. So students that can hear me that has Ms. McKoy for class, when you talk to Ms. McKoy, say, Ms. McKoy, who is Albert Brooks to you? Actually, just like that, say, who is Albert Brooks to you? And because she don't like to talk about it, she's really, really humble about her history and her family, her upbringing. But her family is a very, very, very prominent family in and around Charleston. But if you scroll down a little bit, and I mean, you can just take in what it says. So I'll just really fast. The first gubernatorial candidate debates of South Carolina primary series takes off Wednesday, Thursday nights. I believe this was written a couple years ago. Food and campaigns have mixed up the country at least since the 18th century, when George Washington attended half a dozen barbecues in the lead up to the Revolutionary War. By the 1800s, a candidate didn't stand a chance of winning a seat in the South if he didn't offer potential constituents a slow-cooked hog, whiskey, and lemonade. But in the twined history of votes and vittles is food, a few restaurants also figured prominently. Chief among them in Charleston was Brooks Restaurant, which could be considered the birthplace of the United Citizens Party. Scroll down a little bit.
Wow.
Albert Brooks was a hugely successful entrepreneur who moved home to Charleston after studying at Allen and serving in the Army. He told the Evening Post that friends were mystified by his decision. Albert, why do you stay down south? They asked. I'll tell you why. He told them, I find the most everything up north is phony. I like it here in my hometown of Charleston. I've done well and I have prospered. So this is a very interesting piece. Listen to this. That was an understatement. We were seated in the office of the Brooks Motel in downtown Charleston, waiting for Cassius Clay to come back from wherever he had gone. A Detroit Free Press sports writer recounted in 1970, 6 years after Muhammad Ali shed his slave name. As you look down Morris Street, you can see Brooks Pool Hall, Brooks Real Estate, and Brooks Restaurant, the columnist continued. I imagine somewhat cynically that Mr. Brooks must be a white man. He was wrong. The restaurant that the writer saw and later visited for a Coke was the third eating establishment to bear the Brooks name. Henry Brooks, Albert's older brother, opened a small cafe in 1934, 16 years later, after counting passersby on Morris Street. So anyway, guys, we can do that all day long, but I was telling you that story to kind of convey how I was able to meet Ben Chavis. But when y'all see Miss McKoy, just actually say, who is Mr. Albert Brooks to you? And I mean, you have to pull it out of her, but she has deep historical roots here in Charleston. I'm sorry for going off on that tangent.
No, that's good. That's good information for the students and for us. I'm gonna ask her. Who is Miss?
Yeah, so she has her mother's father, Mr. Brooks. So and I mean, you can still find these places. I've visited all of them in and around the downtown area, and they're still there, but they're different things now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about that.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of, I guess, open for do a Q&A.
Any questions so far before those of us kind of bombard Coach McKoy with our questions? I know I have some people who are joining us. Ms. Graham is joining us, Mr. Timoni, Mr. Maxwell is joining us, Ms. Richardson, Ms. David, Ms. Hamilton, and Ms. Pender, Coach Bird. So we have quite a few people joining us. What questions do you guys have, Ms. Graham or any of you? What do you have for Coach McKoy?
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Hey, Coach, what
Hey, Miss,
position did you play?
I played wide receiver, and
That's what's up.
I was 6'1", 205, in shape back then. You know, I ain't lifted weights in a while, but I played wide receiver, and you know, I had an injury. I'm honest. I don't think I was good enough to make it to the NFL, but I was good enough to get my education paid for. And after that knee injury, I knew what time it was. Like, I mean, that was really the writing on the wall. So you know, I began to just dig deep in my studies, and I was like, man, quit playing around. It's time to graduate, and that's what I did.
I have a question for you. And you see, I'm rocking my HBCU,
Right.
HBCU educated teacher.
All right.
I one of the things that we talk about in African American studies, we do talk about you know, the moral acts both, and then we also talk about you know, the HBCUs, those that were created prior to Reconstruction and those that were created after. So for my students and those listening, an HBCU is basically a historically Black college or university. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that only Black people go there, but it means that after and a little bit before Reconstruction, schools were created in order to make sure African Americans had the opportunity to get an education. And a lot of those schools still exist, like some Coach McKoy school, my school, which is South Carolina State University. But my question for you, Coach McKoy, is how do you feel about because we know once after integration with the colleges, we lost a lot of Black athletes, you know, to more diverse institutions, and with Deion Sanders going to Jackson State, a lot of athletes, African American and minority athletes, are transferring back or choosing HBCU athletic programs. I just want to know what is your thought on that?
So my thought is kind of complex. When I originally, before Deion Sanders took the job at Jackson State, I was always a person to sit and kind of think about different things. And I always wondered, you know, during integration, like what happened, because, you know, the Gramblins, the FAMUs, the Southerns, these were powerhouse football teams in the 60s and 70s. I mean, nobody could beat them. Alabama, Ohio State, Chapel Hill, Clinton, nobody could beat these schools. And one day I was introduced to a book. I went to a seminar. I was introduced to a book. It's called $40 Million Slaves.
Oh.
The book talks about the movement of segregated football players to integrated football players to the NFL. So what happened was Coach Bear Bryant started seeing that Grambling has one of the best football teams in the nation. And Bear Bryant said, hey, I need one of those guys on my football team. So he began to pick these African-American football players while integration was going on to play on the Alabama football team, and people start seeing that it worked for Bear Bryant, who's one of the greatest football coaches of all time. So it could work for us. But there has been a movement as of late that some of the top African-American student athletes are going back to HBCUs and kind of moving away from PWIs. Now, I would be crazy to say that, you know, turn down an offer to a PWI. I mean, they have great resources. They can get you the things that you need. But in my opinion, because I attended the PWI before I transferred to North Carolina Central, there's nothing like an HBCU. I remember, and let me just be real with y'all for a moment. I remember sleeping in after partying the night before, and my professor calling my room phone. And I pick it up and he say, Mr. McKoy, do I need to come to your room and get you? Or are you gonna make it to class? I said, I'm on my way. So I mean, it's totally different. The feel, the vibe, the things that go on at a HBCU versus the PWI. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the PWI. It's not. But there was just a different level of love and respect and things that went on at the HBCU. But nonetheless, there has been a movement as of late of top-notch players going to HBCUs. There was a kid, the number 1 or number 2 basketball recruit in the nation last year, just signed to Howard. There's a lot of talk of this kid that's a sophomore, Michael Carter, I think is his name. A basketball player that should be signed either with North Carolina A&T, South Carolina State, or North Carolina Central. So, I mean, there has been a move. And then you got Deion Sanders at Jackson State. His name recognition alone attracts everybody. And I mean, I think that's great for the HBCUs that Deion Sanders took a job like that. I mean, Deion Sanders literally has millions and millions of dollars and don't need to do anything but just sign on to the news network on Saturdays and Sundays and talk about football. But he chose to get off his bottom and go coach it at Jackson State. So, I mean, that's an awesome thing that's happened for HBCUs around the country. It lends more name recognition to what's going on there.
Can I share a clip real quick of that, just so the students?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
See that real quick. Let me see if I can move this over. Let me move this here. This is just one of the clips that I show in my class when we get to that. I won't play the whole thing, but.
That was a time when we judged football players by the color of their skin before the content of their character. With 28 enshrinees at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the pride of having played at a historically black college and university. Some by choice, many by necessity. From these schools step Super Bowl heroes, professional champions, Deacon, Bullet Bob, Sweetness, and many more. The thunder of their hearts carried them to acclaim. The honor of their deeds opened a nation to racial equality. As my coach Eddie Robinson said, this is America. We can be anything we want to be.
Grambling State.
Gentlemen, please welcome from Grambling State, the MVP of Super Bowl 22, Doug Williams.
Coach Williams.
In 1949, from Grambling State, Paul Tate Younger became the first NFL player from a historically black college and university. He paved the way for these 28 enshrinees in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our first 6 Hall of Famers are no longer with us, but left a legacy that defies time. We take this moment to pay our respects and say thank you. From Morgan State, Hall of Fame class of 1975, Roosevelt Brown. From Morgan State, Hall of Fame class of 1976, Glenn Ford. From Mississippi Valley State, Hall of Fame class of 1980, David Deacon Jones. From Grambling State, Hall of Fame
Secretary of Defense,
Buck Buchanan. From Florida A&M, Hall of Fame class of 2009, Bob Hayes. From Jackson State, Hall of Fame class.
Hey, can you pause it right there?
Yes.
So Bob Hayes, He was the AD at North Carolina Central when I was there. So Bob Hayes is a great.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So this is okay. So he was inducted after what do they call it, posthumously, right? After he passed.
Yeah. So Bob, no. I'm thinking of Bill Hayes. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Okay.
Wow, we call him Wild Bill Hayes. That's what it is. I apologize. Not Bob
I heard
Hayes.
that name before. No, I've heard Wild Bill Hayes.
Yeah.
Class of 2009, Bob Hayes. From Jackson State, Hall of Fame class of 1993, Walter Payton. And now, please welcome from his home in Playa del Rey, California, from Grambling State, Hall of Fame class.
Coach Williams. That's pretty cool.
From Grambling State, Hall of Fame class of 1984, Willie Brown. From Prairie View A&M, the Hall of Fame class of 1986, Jan Houston. From Morgan State, Hall of Fame class of 1986, Willie Lanier. From Southern University, Hall of Fame class of 1989.
I love that they have the hats. I love that look.
Oh yeah, they're walk. Is that when they were walking out on the field during the Super Bowl?
Yeah, is it showing? I thought it was. Is it not showing on the?
It's not showing, but I'm real familiar with that clip. But I'll tell you something else that's great about HBCU football. So I can remember my first game. We was playing at Carter Finley Stadium, which is North Carolina State, and we was playing against North Carolina A&T, the Eagle Aggie Classic. And the band comes out, and the band get to playing, and you on the sideline, you bob your head, you like, oh yeah, I can't wait to get out here, you know. The band behind you rocking and rolling, it's just a different feel. It's just a total different feel, you know. So
I apologize. I thought I pressed share. It was still lingering. My kids were watching it, but the share button was still kind of lingering around. I had not followed through. Yeah, I didn't want to take up all of the time with that question, but I do want to give everybody else a chance, and my students, of course, a chance to ask any questions. Thank you for all of that feedback on that, though. I appreciate that.
that's cool. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Questions?
I had a question. As a counselor, can you talk about maybe the importance of the kids doing their NCAA clearinghouse applications in a timely manner if they have an interest in playing college sports? Because sometimes, it's like, pulling teeth to get them to do that form. And I just want to let the kids know too, that there is a cost to the form, but if they get free and reduced lunch, just like you can get fee waivers with SAT and ACT, you can also get a fee waiver with the clearinghouse form. So just so they know, coming from you, because sometimes they don't always listen to me, that if they want to play college sports, they have to, meet the qualifications for the clearinghouse.
Ms. Johnson, do you have a football player in your class?
How many of you athletes? How many of you are athletes in here? I got one athlete. Tell me your name. Alex.
Alex, tell Alex to come to the camera.
Alex, come here.
Alex on the spot.
Alex, how you doing, Alex?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. What sport do you play?
I play baseball and football, and I used to play basketball.
You used to play basketball. Have you heard of this name, Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
Y'all laughing, but watch this. You've heard of Michael Jordan, okay? What about? We can't use Kobe. We can't use LeBron. What about? Have you heard of the name? They just said his name, Walter Payton. Have you heard of Walter Payton?
I mean, the name sounds familiar, but not really.
So the NFL does this little thing called the Walter Payton Award. Okay, let's don't worry about him. What about Peyton Manning?
Yeah.
Okay, now you know me too, Coach McKoy. I coach football here. So what does Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning, and myself have in common? Do you know?
Y'all were all athletes at one point.
Something more specific.
Um,
I got one even better. Watch this. What grade are you in?
I'm in 10th grade.
You're in the 10th grade. So we just had a couple kids sign to play college football. Taven Drayton, Jonathan Bullard, Nolan Bullard, Nolan, Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning all have this one thing in common. All of them had to fill out the NCAA clearinghouse form. You will get a number called an amateurization number. Everybody has to do. If you plan to play college sports, everybody has to do it. As a matter of fact, Kobe Bryant did it as well, but Kobe skipped college and went to the pros. But word has it that Kobe was going to sign to play basketball at Duke, the little sorry school down the street from Creighton. But you have to do the NCAA clearinghouse. It's mandated. And like Ms. Graham said, if you get free or reduced lunch, you can go see her. That you fill out this waiver form, and it's free. But without the waiver, I think it's about $75. But everybody, I did it. Anybody that's gonna play college, anything, basketball, gymnastics, water polo, hockey, whatever. If you go play a college sport, you have to do the clearinghouse. And what the clearinghouse is just what its name says. It clears you to play college sport. It's a system that talks to Miss Graham in her office to say, hey, did this child complete all his English requirements, all his science, all his academic requirements to play sports? So make sure you tell all your friends they need to fill out the NCAA clearinghouse, because I tell my kids all the time, all the football players.
Can they upload stats to that too? Can they upload
The clearinghouse don't care about stats. The only stats they care about is did you get A's and B's?
Okay. And there's another one out there, isn't there? Isn't there another one? We had a student, my UBASA president last year went to school in Florida and he had to fill out something, but it wasn't the clearinghouse. Ms. Graham, do you remember what that was called?
Was the FAFSA?
It wasn't FAFSA. It was something similar to clearinghouse.
Well,
but
I think what it is we've had different things. It depends on the clearinghouse is for Division I and II, maybe III. You know, those schools. I think. You know, I'm no expert on that. But I think
1, 2, 3.
And I think there is there may be some other eligibility form or program for other schools, but I mean, I'm not really familiar with it.
Okay. Yeah, because that threw me off last year when Trey, one of my former students, asked us about that. And I was like, I wasn't familiar with, I knew about clearinghouse, but I wasn't familiar with that one that he was asking for. I got another question, and then we're gonna, because our time is winding up. It's fast, it's going through faster than I imagine. You and Maxwell, Mr. Maxwell, has been great this morning. My question, I watched this documentary. How many of y'all students in here heard of 30 for 30? Y'all ever heard of that before? Okay, so I watched this documentary that talked about athletes and pay, or athletes, oh gosh, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it had to do with like students, their names being used in like video games or to market products for school. What is your thought on that? I mean, as a former athlete yourself, what is your thought on what was happening to those young men and women with PlayStation or whatever, those different things that were using their names, and even the school? I mean, I know the school kind of, I can see it because the school is taking care of them financially, but those businesses that were, you know, using those children as, or students as marketing tools, but then not reimbursing them, especially if they got injured and things.
So there's a big lawsuit out. It's a class action lawsuit with a lot of college students suing EA Sports over the production of a video game that has been played for many, many, many years. It's been out of production now for about 7 or 8, and they just put it back into production because some of the lawsuits were cleared, some of the hurdles were cleared. But my personal opinion on paying college students, California just passed a resolution, a bill to pay their collegiate students. I firmly, wholeheartedly believe that college athletes should get paid. Do I have in my mind the correct structure on who should get what? No, I don't. But there is something to be said for a college student that stands beside his head coach who's making $5 million a year, and this kid that can't eat after 8 o'clock because the cafeteria is closed and he don't have no money in his pocket to go get no food. And you know, when you're desperate, sometimes desperate measures, desperate things happen. I remember as a college student, I was broke, but I knew that, you know, I'm standing next to a man who's making, you know, $500,000 a year. I'm like, man, he eating good. Like, how am I eat? So oodles and noodles, bologna sandwiches, turkey sandwiches, little bags of chips. So I'm struggling to survive, but my play on the field helps produce this man's paycheck. So, I mean, you know, you look at some of these coaches like Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Coach Venables, they're making lots and lots and lots of money because of the production of the football team. You know, and you look at some of these big schools, Florida State, Miami, Alabama, Auburn, you know, their football team is making in excess of $100 to $200 million a year. And do I think the wealth should be spread? Absolutely. Why not? You know, there's a documentary on the 30 for 30, the Fab Five up at Michigan. You know, these kids, they were selling these kids jersey numbers. They start wearing the high all black Nike socks. So Nike start putting them in all the Foot Lockers. Chris Webber, before it was super popular to have your own signature sneaker, Chris Webber had one in college. And I mean, they're selling out of the store, but this big company is making all the money, but not sharing the wealth, you know, and if I revert back to the book I told you guys about $40 million slaves, it kind of touches on that. And I think that's a little deep for this conversation, but I absolutely think that the wealth should be shared with these TV deals, the money that these stadiums are making for college students. I mean, and the NCAA, it's a great documentary out on the NCAA on how tough it is. I mean, you got kids that are struggling to survive, but they can't even sign an autograph and someone give them $10 before they're suspended for a game for a month. You know, I mean, I think it's absolutely crazy. These kids should be considered some sort of paid athlete, and maybe you don't pay them directly. Maybe you put money in a trust for them once they graduate or leave campus, but they need to be compensated because to be an athlete on the campus, it's a job. It is an absolute job. So those out there that want to be a student athlete, it's a job being an athlete on a college campus.
And of course, I mean, all this is rich. I'm definitely going to get that book. Of course, me being for the class, but also for myself. Now, of course, I got to do you like Mr. Maxwell. I told you I did radio for 8 years. So I got to throw one. Radio didn't pay me anything. Maybe I should have asked them to pay me. That's why I'm teaching. But I didn't make much money in radio, so that's why I'm here. But I want to ask you, this, and this might be kind of a little slightly not controversial, not big controversial, but just a little bit. That movie that came out a few years ago, called Concussion. How can you encourage parents to feel good about their kids playing? Because you know that after seeing that movie, I don't have any children, but you know, I can imagine that some parents probably had like some concerns after seeing that film. I think it starred Will Smith.
Right.
Yeah, y'all. Okay, my kids, so they know about it. They've watched it. How can you make a parent or guardian feel safe about their child engaging in contact sports?
The short of the answer is I can't.
Okay.
The long of the answer is every sport, with the exception of maybe golf or swimming, you're liable to be concussed. Not just football. Football is more violent. Football gets more airtime. Football is so powerful that it has its own day of the week. You know, if football, if the NFL decided to have spring ball, you know, they could take Sundays in the spring if they wanted. But every sport is you could possibly have a concussion. We do try to stay on the cutting edge of technology with our helmets. We're fortunate that the James Island School Board has purchased us new helmets for the fall that we'll be wearing, and these are the top of the line cutting edge helmet that reduces the impact on the brain. But at the end of the day, a parent and the student athlete will have to go home, sit down, and consider, you know, the move that they would want to make. Because if you're gonna be in, I need you 10 toes down, not 5. So I'm a firm believer, and you know, if you go be with me, you with me, and we go ride out. You know, you got to be all in. You know, as my grandfather would say, you know, you get it how you live, you eat what you kill. So if you ain't all in, you go starve. So you got to be all in with us. You gotta rock with us. So we are going to. I just got this hat to Rydell, which is top of the line, one of the best helmets out. But concussions can happen in any sport. We just had a young man get concussed in wrestling, and I know the young man well, like him, love him. He's a great kid, but
Yeah.
it can happen any sport. So we can't just point the finger at football. I haven't seen the movie, and that's on purpose. I'm a Will Smith fan, but concussions can happen in any sport.
Okay.
Not just
Thank
football.
you. No, that's a good, honest answer, because that's a concern of a lot of people. A lot of parents who have children that have played, you know, years later, they have questions and things. And so I did want to ask that, just, you know, maybe just to put some honesty out there. So I appreciate that it can happen to anybody, and that's really the risk. But if you're gonna be in, you need to be all in.
Absolutely.
Understanding that, you know, we can get injured sharpening a pencil. Anything can happen, but that's one of those things that we have to take into consideration when we get out of our bed in the morning. So I thank you. Does anyone else have any? I'm glad that we recorded this one also. Do you guys have any questions, Ms. Graham, Mr. Timoni? We got about 5 minutes left. Students in my class, they're watching you. Any other questions? Nobody else?
Mr. Maxwell, you're muted. I think he was trying to say something, but he's muted.
Oh, okay. Mr. Maxwell. He's still muted.
It won't let me. Okay. Unmute. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you, Mr. Maxwell.
All right, great. I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
All right.
First and foremost, I say thank you for sharing. It was very, very informative. There are a lot of takeaways if these young people just listen to some of the things that you drop. You put some very informative, some great nuggets there in retrospect of one, your upbringing, how you define the odds and the stereotypes of many things that would say coming from a single parent home that you cannot be successful. That's just a stereotype that has been debunked. And I thank you for sharing that opportunity so that these young people would understand that coming from where you were and now to where you are, it's achievable for everybody if they desire that, you know? And
Right.
also, in speaking in retrospect of HBCUs, because a lot of times people don't understand the power of unification coming from an HBCU, you know, and you said something which was so profound about your professor calling your room saying, hey, what's going on? You will
Yeah.
not get that at PWI. You know, you will not get that because ultimately you're just a number. You know, when I was in school, I was the barbering president. So I taught other students how to cut hair, you know, and so I knew that I was accountable for not just myself, but other people. So when there was something going on, the professor would look at me and like, hey, Max, what's going on? You know, he wanted me to correct those situations. I don't think that I would have received that if I was at a PWI, you know, so I thank you for those takeaways. Also, and just helping these young people understand that there's a difference between a athletic student and a student athlete. There's a difference, you know, because you have to also understand that education is key. So you go to school to be educated. My son is a soccer player over at James Island. He's very, very good. He plays on South Carolina's national elite team. You know, we travel abroad. And so one thing that I have make sure that he understands, he's a student and then he's an athlete. He has a 4 point something GPA and he's pushing forward, but I make sure that these kids understand that it's education first. So I would say to you, thank you. I'm glad that you're in position to actually help these young people at the school and just to give them an insight and wisdom on their next level of life, you know, and understanding where you are in placement. And so it's really, really good. And I really appreciate the nuggets that you have shared today. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Mr. Maxwell, I think I have your child in class.
Uh-oh.
Probably
Uh-oh.
do.
His name is Charles Maxwell too, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Yep.
I got him in class. I got him in class.
That's right.
Thank you for those comments, those kind
You
words.
better be a good student.
Oh, yeah, he's a good student. He does what he's supposed to do.
And I can say from I want to think I can speak for those of us who are Islanders, like Miss Graham and myself, and Miss Richardson. We all came through these halls, and it's an honor. I'm gonna tell you, when I found out that you were coming,
right,
the community, you know, Miss Richardson and I still live on the island. Miss Graham's mom is down the street from me. And so, you know, but the buzz was there. And I'm proud to say that I'm here as a teacher. You know, I wasn't gonna move back home, but, you know, as fate would have it, I was able to move back home. And I'm glad that I was able to move back home and be able to call you my colleague. And I'm excited for what you're gonna do. And I can tell you, my boys in Ubasa, they were excited last year. They're still excited. They love you. So I mean, from an island perspective, you know, I can definitely say that it was time, and I appreciate the powers that be, those who you looked at you and said, yes, we think that this gentleman would be a good fit for our students. We trust him with them academically, and we trust him with them socially and athletically, and that speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Coach Holland, the athletic director, you know, he'll probably get me for sharing this, but privately he told me, he said, Jamar, you know, I didn't hire you because you were Black. I hired you because you was the best man.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I can't hide my melanin. So I bring that with me everywhere I go, and I'm proud of the fact that that, as Mr. Maxwell said, I beat the odds and the statistics that they say, and I'm glad to be considered a great football coach, because at the end of the day, we all bleed the same. We share some of the same emotions. If I drop the weight on your foot, it hurt us all. So I just want to be good at what I do. I want to be great at what I do. And
Yes.
I strive to do that every day. Try to hold the kids accountable, because I will want the next man to hold my children accountable. So I just try to be the best version of me every day that I wake up. Try to be the best version of me that I can be.
Yeah. And again, before we depart, remember to bring that table or that card table, like we talked about, Mr. Maxwell, that chair, right? You sit at the table, you take what you can, as my dad used to say, take the meat and leave the bone, and then you go set your own table. Do what you need to do. Take the pieces and enhance yourself.
That's absolutely correct. Just bring a seat to the table. A great saying that goes with that, lift as we climb. A lot of people say it's lonely at the top. Well, it's only lonely because you didn't take nobody with you when you went. So you need to grab and take some folk with you when you get to the top. Just real fast, Mr. Timon, I just want to give a shout out to Brother Carter G. Woodson of the Omega Phi fraternity, who created Black History Week, that is now Black History Month. He was part of the greatest fraternity known to man.
But you know what? Well, you know what,
brother.
Mr. Timoni, don't worry, because look, next week we got the gallery walk, and we're gonna be honoring Brother John Lewis. So we don't worry. We do thank Dr. Carter G. Woodson. We are very grateful for his contribution, but we're gonna end on a high note. Because there's no purple without blue.
Okay, my constitutionally bound sister. Y'all will learn about that a little later.
All right, we're gonna thank you. We're gonna play your outro music with George Clinton. And thank y'all, my students, for listening, and everybody for joining us. We appreciate it.
Root to the bros. Good bros of Omega Psi Phi. Shaq, Michael Jordan.
Look, I might go back to radio.
If I had a little more room in this over. Set it on out now.
They laughing. They love it. All right, y'all. See ya.